Hi everyone, welcome back to Andrew's Arts and Models. This is part 4, the long-awaited part 4 of the X-Wing build for Tycho Celchu. I sort of painted myself into a corner with the first 3 videos I did. I sort of thought, well, there's no way known I'm going to finish it in one video. I was hoping to do only 4. So I have waited till I've gotten the right technology and equipment and everything, and we're bringing you part 4, and it's going to be a compressed build. So thank you for your patience. Sorry about the wait. Now, as you can see, to begin with, I'm going over some of the painting I did in the previous videos. I really didn't like how the wash took. I didn't clear coat the model properly, so I decided that some of the wash was a bit too embedded, and then I wanted to sort of touch up the paint. Now, most of this video is going to be sped up 2 to 3 times. As you can imagine, there's probably a fair bit to go through, so I didn't want to draw this out forever and have me droning on in your ear forever. But, so there we go, we'll just continue on. So basically I just painted the centre section there with NATO black, Tamiya NATO black, and just doing a little bit of pre-shading with some very thin NATO black as well. You can just see us going over the model there. I actually used a grader to do the pre-shading last time, but I thought, well, I've got a little of this left over, and if I'm not too heavy with it, I should be okay. Alright, just working on the rear section there. That's all going to be painted aluminium, so I wanted a nice dark coat to the back of that. And there's the nose cone. Now, someone actually sent me a message saying that the paint scheme that I'd chosen was incorrect. For this particular plane. There are photos of little X-Wings on the internet that have got a slightly different paint scheme that are meant to be the same ship. I think, don't quote me on this, but I think they're actually based on the comic book series, I think. And that was the scheme used in the series, if I'm not mistaken, whereas the one that I've done on this model is pretty much as described in the book series, the Rogue Squadron book series by, what was it, the first 4 books. Michael Stackpole was the author of the first 4. So, Michael A. Stackpole, something like that. But, yeah, so just going through the pre-shading. I've already painted the pilot as well, and I painted it in the same colours as described in, I think it was book 3, end of book 3, or the beginning of book 4. Of the series, so they have a different uniform colour. It's a green and black and white, and I won't say why it's a different colour in case I'll spoil it for some of you that haven't read those books yet, but it's just the squadron decides to change their uniform along with the schemes. So I thought, yeah, we'll paint the little pilot up similar fashion and continue on. So now starting off with the red, I really wanted to have the red a bit brighter than it was last time, of course, so you saw me respray the other bit, and I'm applying it fairly thinly to the model, just slowly building it up, just so I don't get rid of all those details that we've put in there with the pre-shading, so you can still see it come through. And we get a few areas where it's not quite as thick and the paint's a bit lighter and whatnot, it just adds a bit of variation to it. Just redoing the inside of the engine intakes there. Alright. Now you can see me just clicking it all together. I love these kits, they're so easy to build. I've got another 3 that are pretty much built and waiting to be painted, so we're going to have those coming out very soon as well. So next videos are going to be a few on some P51s, and then we've got the X-Wing series, but we're just continuing on with this one for the moment. There's the little pilot, as I was saying, his little colour. I'm not the best figure painter, so I just sort of did him up a little bit and add some highlights to the cockpit area. Now, actually in the instructions you're meant to install him before you install the front console there. So it's a bit of a tight fit, but you can do it. And some of you would have heard me say before that I love the decals and the stickers in these sets, and even though I don't use the stickers, they do make excellent painting masks. So just make sure you've got to get them right in position properly. They're a perfect fit if you lay them down properly, and just burnish the edges down with a little bit of a toothpick or the back of a brush or something like that, just to make sure it's not going to get, the paint's not going to get under the edge. I'm doing the black stripe on the nose. Now in the book it really doesn't say what direction the stripes go in, but it just looked a bit more natural to me doing it this way. I did a few concept drawings and played around with it a bit, but I thought, no, I like that effect, that angle better, so we've kept with that. Alright, so just touching up some more pre-shading, because that rest of that behind that stripe's obviously going to be black. Now, I painted the little droid unit, the astromech, but foolishly I actually started painting him by hand. I forgot all about the decals. Don't ask me why, I have no idea. But so you might see he's got a little bit of paint on him later on, but yeah, it wasn't really necessary because the decals are sort of stopped shortly after I started it. Here we're just masking off the canopy. Now I've used Tamiya tape there, and I'm using a bit of what we call in Australia blue tack. It's well, what is it? It's like a what's the best way to describe it? It's an adhesive which is pliable, and you can use it to stick stuff up on walls like posters and stuff. If you are going to use it in the models or something similar to it, I do recommend that you clear coat the surface first that the blue tack's can be applied on. Firstly, to protect the paint from lifting, but also too, sometimes it can be a little oily, and that can soak into the paint. So you'll be really careful with that. But if you use it properly, it is a great little tool. And here we are, we're just going over the red again, just putting some mask on there just to make sure I don't accidentally spray onto the white and black sections that we've already done earlier. Really did have a lot of fun with this kit. Love doing stuff that's just sort of a little bit out of the norm. Now I was very careful on the rear section too, just to try and make sure that the colours were going to match when I was joining it together, because obviously I'm doing it separately to the rest of the kit. Put a bit of gunmetal grey on this section here. This is the part behind the astromech, so I put a bit of gunmetal on that. And then, if I'm not mistaken, I do some highlights with a little bit of Tamiya aluminium, and I then run just a really light wash of Tamiya smoke over it. Yep, flat aluminium, there we go. Just sort of pick up some of the high areas, make it stand out a little bit. As you can see, I'm not being overly careful with it. Alright, do the same on the rear as well. So as I was saying earlier, really painted that black so we could get the aluminium paint in there really well. You can spray it if you want, but it's just easier to hand paint it. I wanted it to look fairly rough in there anyway, so that was a simpler method. Alright, Tamiya Smoke X19. I love this paint. It is really good for some washing, if you can do some very simple washes, but also very good for post shading and a lot of things. I love it, really handy. And I'll just spread a bit of that around in there. If you're going to use it as a wash, I recommend sealing the base coat paint first, because it will lift it. It will react with the acrylic paints and muck it around, so make sure you seal it first. And just adding the decals to the cockpit here. Just set them in and put some Mr. Mark softer on them just to get them to sit properly, and position them. You can see my little pilot uniform there. Right. decals on the astromech, and you can see for some reason I decided, yeah, I need to start painting this guy. Don't ask me why, I couldn't tell you why, but I did, and it's done. So yeah, move on, put the decals on, make sure they bed down with the mark softer. Once everything's dried, I'll then hit it with a clear coat as well, just to protect them and make sure they don't lift. Alright, so this part is something I really wanted to show you. This is the controls, or the control panel in the forward part of the cockpit. Now you can see the odd shape of the decals on there. Really a good idea, if you, as you saw what I did there, and I'll show you again in a minute, is just to cut. There's a little gap from where it joins around the top part of the console. Just cut that with a pair of scissors or a scalpel very, very carefully, just like that. And that'll really help it conform to the shape. So you can see it there, it's sort of sitting proud, and as soon as I put the mark softer on it, it really hugs the surface, and I'll just sort of shift it around, get it in the right position, make sure there's no air bubbles underneath it. If you really want to, you can push it down the cotton bud and sort of burn shit into the surface, but you really shouldn't need to. If you've cut that section, it really just sits into place quite nicely. Alright, just lifting the painting mask on the canopy here. Just pick at the edge with the toothpick very carefully, just make sure they don't chip the paint, and lift her up and away you go. And just show you those. I absolutely love this method. I'm sure the aftermarket boys hate it because they're not going to be able to sell painting masks for the X-Wings. But, yeah, no, it's great, I love it. Just a little bit of adhesive there stuck on, so just use the mask that I lifted to take it off. Easy. Bed everything down with a clear coat, again, a gloss. I want that over all the decals and everything in there, just make sure they don't lift up. And once we put it together, it's going to stay that way. Now, before I put the canopy on, I wanted to play around with the washers. I was originally going to run them through the cockpit. I don't think I did too much of that. But yeah, sort of want to get this bit. I want to get this bit done just prior to final assembly. It's just me. Alright, so basically there's two ways that I'll run through it, and you'll see I show you quite a lot. I'll put load the surface fairly quickly and try and get it to run into the recesses and the panel lines and everything like that, and then wipe it off. But you can leave it go a bit longer, like I've done on the side here. Just let it sit a bit longer and let it actually dry on the surface. As long as you've clear coated it, it's nice, good gloss surface, it's not going to hurt it. And then you can dampen your cotton bud with a bit of turpentine, or what do they call it, odorless turpenoid, I think it's called, and you can wipe it off, and you won't lift anything from the you won't lift it from the cracks. But also, see, this is what we're doing here. Also, you can use the residue to change the tone of the surface, make it look more weathered, make it look a bit dirtier. Now, I didn't want to do that on the white parts because it was just going to end up probably being too dark. Alright, go back over the wings. You saw me touching up the paint on those before at the beginning. And decide to take the lasers off. The gross thing about these kits is because they're a snap tight, I can take the lasers off, just get in underneath there, work that area properly, and then work all around the laser without having to really go to too much trouble. And then once I had finished that, I actually just glued them in place so they weren't going to come off again. Just picking out some of the details here. Alright, engines. Engines I painted with the gunmetal, Tamiya gunmetal as well. Sorry, yeah, just on the outside. On the insides I used NATO black, but I used it fairly thin, so I want to slow this part down so you can see what I'm doing. I'll load the brush with the paint, and very gently put it in, and what happens is as soon as you touch the bottom, the paint sort of runs off the brush, so you get an effect like that. Now, I have a really bad problem at the moment with my hands shaking, so I kept hitting the inside of the cowling there, and you can see, you can see a mark of paint that I put there, and I'll show you some other ones. They're actually, don't worry if you've done that. It's actually really easy to clean up because we've already clear coated the model. So all I need to do is get a bit of the Tamiya thinner, which is the X28 thinner. Put it into my brush. I put it on, dampen my brush with it, and just wipe the surface down. And I can get most of that out. So it's not the end of the world if you do that. Okie dokie, the engines. So if you look at the movies and whatnot, the engine is sort of a pinkish red or white. It's an odd sort of colour, but it is basically a pink. So I do a dark coat of pink. Now it's just a Tamiya X7 red mixed with a bit of the white, and do a dark coat to begin with, and then sort of pick up the raised areas with a bit of a lighter coat, going to almost a white, just to sort of get that detail to stand out. You can sort of see it there, and then hit it with a little bit of yellow as well, just to break up the effect a little bit. It's certainly not the most extravagant effect, but actually I quite like how it works. So you can sort of see it there. Just mixes it up a little bit. Alrighty. On the home stretch, here goes the canopy. Canopy's in place, and we're just going to put a little bit of the Tamiya dark wash, the panel line accent colour. They're black. You can mix up your own with enamels if you prefer, but I'm quite happy using their product. I find it's quite good. And there you go. Pretty much done. So, once again, thank you everybody for sticking with me. Sorry it's taken me so long to get this video out there, but it is out there now. I'm just showing the photos of the kit here with the display stand that comes with the kit. I'm actually going to make my own stand, just using that arm, but just a different base, and have a little Rogue Squadron insignia on the bottom of it, I think. But thought I'd show you some stills here so you can have a good look at it. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask me. Thanks to everyone for liking, subscribing, commenting. Everyone, as always, big thank you to Darren from Tokyo Model Detective for everything that he does and support. It's fantastic. And we'll have more videos for you very, very soon. Thanks for watching.